Okay, I need two people to read for me. Jerry, can you read for me?
Yeah, I got
I want someone from over here.
I would like to not, but I can.
Okay. Lauren, can you look up 1 Timothy 4, 12 through 16? And Dell, can you look up Matthew 20, 25 through 28? But you don't have to read now, I'll tell you when. Starting off, how many of you consider yourselves a leader? Just like by show of hands. In some way, shape, or form.
a what?
A leader.
A leader?
A leader.
A weeder?
L-E-A.
Like a leader?
L-E-A-D-E-R. Jerry. Not like the measurement.
I'm disappointed.
No one considers themselves a leader.
Yeah.
Jaden considers themselves a leader. No one
Is
else?
that?
Okay. What do you guys think makes someone a bad leader?
Someone who wants to take over the world.
Okay. Jaden?
Something like selfishness, like only caring about what's good for them and not for like the greater good.
Definitely. Anything else?
I think like a dictator, like they only want their ways and don't care about anyone else's.
Yeah. So kind of like what Jaden was saying as far as selfishness goes. I think pride, definitely. Like, if you have way too much. I think pride can be good, but too much is very bad. Like, take pride in your work is good, but if you're just like way too prideful, like, it's my way and I know everything, like that's when it kind of gets dangerous. I think a leader that doesn't have like good patience is also really bad. So on the contrary to that, what do you think makes someone a good leader? And there are like many qualities that make people good leaders. And different leaders, to clarify, are good for like different things. So you can think of like world leaders or like maybe a teacher or maybe the leader in your like friend group. So what would you say makes them a good leader, Del?
One who cares about his followers.
Okay. I think that's like spot on. Anyone else? Guessing that's it. Okay, I'll read mine first. So this is 1 Peter 5, 2 through 6. You don't have to flip to it because I've got like 4 different things. Care for the flock that God has entrusted to you. Watch over it willingly, not grudgingly, not for what you will get out of it, but because you are eager to serve God. Don't lord over the people assigned to your care, but lead them by your own good example. And when the great shepherd appears, you will receive a crown of never-ending glory and honor. In the same way, you who are younger must accept all authority, or the authority of the elders. And all of you dress yourselves in humility as you relate to one another. For God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So humble yourselves under the mighty power of God, and at the right time he will lift you up in honor. And Del, can you read Matthew 20, verses 25 through 28?
But Jesus called them together and said, "You know that the rulers in this world lord it over their people, and the officials flaunt their authority over those under them. But among you it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must become your slave. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many."
So in these passages we're told about the importance of humility, and that even Christ, who came to save, first came to serve others and lay down his life as a sacrifice. With that being said, why do you think that so many people that we call role models and people that we look to as leaders are so self-absorbed and boastful? like you have something that you don't.
Well, I'm just saying, like, because people, like, look up to them and they think that, like, well, if so-and-so's looking up to me, then I have to, like, give them a thing to look up to, but then they just get so full of themselves because they think that they're benefiting, but they're not. I don't know if that makes sense, but it made sense in my head, so I said it out loud.
I think a lot of leaders really go into leadership because they think that, oh, people are gonna know my name, and people are gonna know what I do and how I react to things, and they do it because they want to be, like, popular, when really a leader doesn't want that at all. They just want to serve.
Jaden, did you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna say like just whenever I thought of leader, like it makes me think of like celebrities because a lot of people like idolize people that look like that or like whatever they're doing. But not to say that all people are like that, but a lot of those people like went out searching for that attention or that fame, you know, and so it takes like you really have to look at like the leader's intentions behind why they even wanted to take that position in the first place.
That's really good. Did anyone on this side have anything? No? Okay, so kind of.
I think,
Go ahead.
I'll pop in. I think, speaking of celebrities and people that we consider leaders, I think a lot of those people don't, maybe not consider themselves as leaders. They've been put in a leadership position by fans and people that look to them and they like what they're doing. And I think they don't have any idea of the responsibilities of leadership.
I think that's actually like really spot on. Like I think you can see that in musicians and actors, and like once they get a following, they kind of like don't know what to do with it. Which I don't want to say it's a bad thing because while they didn't ask for it, like they do have it. So it's important to be responsible for like the eyes that are on you at all times because you never know who's watching. Kind of going along with what you girl said. I feel like we live in a world where people are becoming increasingly more concerned about what people think of them. We as a society are so caught up in how many likes we get on social media that we are reaching for this impossible standard of perfection so we can be perceived as great, cool, popular, fun, etc. Why do we as Christians look up to people like this? And why do we as Christians sometimes act like this ourselves?
Can you see the question again?
Why do we as Christians look up to people who act like this? And why do we as Christians act like this ourselves?
Could you clarify this one more time? I'm sorry. You don't have to do the whole
What do you
thing.
mean, like acting like?
Yeah, you say.
Okay, so like, why are we acting like bad leaders? Why are we displaying bad leadership qualities? Why do we
So why do we follow
give a
people
bad
that have bad
example?
leadership, and why do we also many
Give a
times
bad
show
leadership
ourselves to be bad
example?
leadership?
Sorry.
I think when it comes to the people of the world, whether it's athletes or celebrities or whatever, it's very, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's just very easy to fall into that trap. I mean, the world has a way of presenting these individuals and putting them on a platform that is, can I say, very alluring, very seductive, if you will. Like you don't necessarily set out intending to have such a fascination or whatever with a particular person, but before you know it, because everybody else is kind of on that wavelength, you just kind of follow right along, and before you know it, there you are. I mean, I think it's difficult. You have to, as a follower of Christ, you have to make a conscious decision not to fall into that trap because most everybody else is. And I think it's similar to your own personal leadership. It's what you see, it's what you hear, and so it's what you mimic. You have to make a conscious decision. I'm not going to be that person because it's completely contrary to your sinful human nature. So
I think that's pretty spot on. Anyone else have anything?
I think too, like, especially like for people my age, like growing up where like social media is just like right at our fingertips, we like see like all of these like bad leaders, and so I feel like some of us like almost have like a skewed view of like what a good leader like or a bad leader like what it even is, because it's like what we see every day, and we're just taught to believe that like that's okay and that's right when it's really a lot of times not.
I think that's pretty spot on as well. One thing that I was thinking about, and I thought about this kind of like right before we came up here, I was actually writing like last minute notes when my mom got home and we were about to leave. But I think kind of along what Josh was saying, when you're like a big athlete or a really famous actor or musician or whatever, you have like all this money, and if you don't kind of keep your focus on God, you've got like tons of money to spend on whatever you want and to kind of get into whatever you want to get into, you know. So they kind of create this image for themselves, and then where the younger people come in that may be watching them, they get this sort of view where it's like, okay, well, if I do this, I'm going to be cool. Or if I do wear these clothes, I'm going to be cool and popular, and people are going to like me. So on and so forth. So it kind of goes along with that. So I'm going to read 1 Timothy 3, 1 through 7.
1 through 7?
1 through 7. This isn't yours, this is mine.
Oh.
Your
Then what's mine?
your 1 Timothy 4, 12 through 16.
Okay, I knew I was first Timothy.
What I'm reading is 1 Timothy 3, 1 through 7. This is a trustworthy saying. If someone aspires to be a church leader, he desires an honorable position. So a church leader must be a man whose life is above reproach. He must be faithful to his wife. He must exercise self-control, live wisely, and have a good reputation. He must enjoy having guests in his home, and he must be able to teach. He must not be a heavy drinker or be violent. He must be gentle, not quarrelsome, and not love money. He must manage his own family well, having children who respect and obey him. For if a man cannot manage his own household, how can he take care of God's church? A church leader must not be a new believer, because he might become proud, and the devil would cause him to fall. Also, people outside of the church must speak well of him, so that he will not be disgraced and fall into the devil's trap. So what does this passage say about being a leader, specifically about how a leader should act? Some of this like doesn't apply to us yet, because like none of us have kids, obviously, so we can't like manage a household. But you can be a leader in your household. Well, I say a leader, like a spiritual leader in your household, and just kind of be an example that way. But what does this passage say about being a leader?
See,
And how
this
it should
kind of
act?
reminds me of Kanye West. And I say that because, like, it says, well, in the House Bible, it says an elder must not be a new believer because he might become proud. And, like, there's a lot of talk, like, saying that, like, Kanye is planning on leading something this year, 2020, like, a big, like, youth
But
youth
how
revival.
do you know he's a new believer? He could have been a
Because
believer
he's literally just transitioned. And so, like, I understand. Okay, I'm getting off topic. Okay, but, like, since he just, like, 2019 decided, like, I'm not, because he was his own God for a long time. Well, now I feel like, I don't think that he should be, I mean, it's my opinion, but I don't think that he should go into being, like, into a youth conference because he just became a believer. And so he's going to go in there saying, like, God, I love God, like, yada, 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 which, yeah, but for a long time you were your God and you worshiped yourself. So it's like, that's all I thought about. I was like, whoa.
Well, even necessarily if he isn't a new believer, like Del was saying, he's still new to like proclaiming that he is. So
Never
he
really said
shouldn't.
something like that, or had that much of an effect on some of the people in the room.
So this is something that we talked about at camp a little bit, actually, kind of the new believer thing. And the way we phrased it was like baby Christians. And pretty much what that means is you're either a new believer or you may be a believer who was saved at like the age of 9, but you never like grew in your faith. So I think that's kind of what it's talking about. You don't grow in your faith like you grow as a person, or as you age, I guess. You have to like be studying God's word for you to grow and mature as a Christian. It's not as simple as just getting older. I've been a Christian for X amount of years, so I know more than you. It's not about that. You can have someone who's been a Christian for 50 years, but they haven't been studying their Bible or going to church or been like researching constantly about God's word, and they'll know less than someone who's been doing it for 5 years. It's all about how much you want to grow as a person. So yeah, it's kind of that. Again, we talk about pride and the importance of humility in this passage. In verse 6, it says, "A church leader must not be a new believer because he might become proud and the devil would cause him to fall." We know that the Bible says in James that salvation is by faith and not by works, so that no one can boast. So just remember all the great things that you do. It is not you who does it, but it is God who does it through you. Lauren, can you read 1 Timothy 4, verses 12 through 16?
Don't let anyone think less of you because you are young. Be an example to all believers in what you say, in the way you live, in your love, the way you live, in your love, your faith, and your purity. Until I get there, focus on reading the scriptures to the church, encouraging the believers, and teaching them. Do not neglect the spiritual gift you received through the prophecy spoken over you when the elders of the church laid their hands on you. Give your complete attention to these matters. Throw yourself into your task so that everyone will see your progress. Keep a close watch on how you live and on your teaching. Stay true to what is right for the sake of your own salvation and the salvation of those who hear you.
So this talks about, of course, the first part of it's talking about like, don't let anyone think less of you because of your youth, because of your age. Specifically when it comes to leadership and leading the church. But it's kind of talking about that. Don't let anyone think less of you because you're young. And while this is true, I think it's important to realize that Paul is, of course, sending this as a letter to Timothy, he's left as being in charge of the church. You're good. And has anyone heard the saying you're wise beyond your years? I think it's extremely safe to say that Timothy was probably wise beyond his years, especially when it came to or when it comes to spiritual elements. He was pretty up there when it came to that, especially for his age. So I think that if you are striving to be a leader, and even if you're not, it's important to not necessarily act older, because if you act older, you're gonna give up the act at some point. But just be mature in what you do, and what that means pretty much. There's a difference between acting older and being mature to me. Someone who's being mature will be the one group or one person in the friend group who, when everyone else who's been acting older will be yeah, we don't need to be doing this. They'll be if you've ever been called the mom of your group or whatever, that's probably you. So I think it's important to if you're striving to be a young leader, just kind of keep studying and keep doing what the Bible tells you. It says, do not neglect the spiritual gift you received through the prophecy spoken over you when the elders of the church laid their hands on you. Give your complete attention to these matters. Throw yourselves into your tasks so that everyone will see your progress. Keep a close watch on how you live and on your teaching. Stay true to what is right for the sake of your own salvation and for the salvation of those who hear you. So especially on that last part, stay true to what is right for the sake of your own salvation. Kind of goes back to like the whole baby Christian thing. Like if you're studying constantly and all that, but you're still out doing all the worldly things, have you really grown in your faith at all? Or are you just reading for the sake of reading at that point? If you study something and don't apply it, what knowledge have you actually gained? You haven't gained anything because you're not applying it and you're not learning through it. So just kind of as a closer, as you're going throughout your week, think about those who are being led by you and think on if you're being a good example to them. And also think about who's leading you